place of Endgame. It's gotta be.
Hello, chess players. In a pawn race, there are no heroes, only peasants sprinting towards promotion, while kings desperately count tempos like tax collectors. One wasted move, one lazy king step, and suddenly the future queen is already knocking on the door. So whoever promotes first usually decides the game. Not with brilliance, but with pure speed. So today's topic is pawn races. But first, let's check the homework solution, from the previous lesson. So what did you come up with? This was the example. And what should white play here? The previous theme was pieces versus pawns. So the good idea here is to sacrifice the piece, but exactly how? We attack b5 pawn, but black can protect it. So what's the sacrifice here? The right one is knight takes c4. This way we eventually gain 3 pawns for the piece, which is a huge achievement in the endgame, because usually in the endgame we know pawns increase in value, and especially connected pawns. So we're gonna pick up the a6 pawn as well. Knight d7, for example, picking, and we have 3 passers, 3 connected passers with the help of the bishop. They are unstoppable. Even these 2 knights are no match for them. Black king is also far away, so the pawns just start rolling, for example, like this, and eventually they will overwhelm the knights. They have to sacrifice already, but this is winning advantage. They have to give away at least one of the knights, but king is coming. We have 2 extra pawns, so this is winning. So I hope you've seen, from all the knowledge you gained in that lesson, you've seen this idea, sacrificing a piece for 3 pawns. All right, let's begin our theme of the day, and it's gonna be about pawn races. So this is a interesting study, Dawson puzzle, I think it's called. White to play. Looks like we're just need to move the king and promote, while black is also racing, racing to promote. So what should we do here? Maybe we need to sacrifice a knight. What do you think? Somehow, but exactly for which pawn? So if you thought knight f4, sacrificing like this, to go for a skewer, very interesting idea. f2, e8 queen. But of course black doesn't play now queen, because they're gonna get skewered and lose the game. They play king d2, and if you know some theoretical endgames, you might recognize this position, queen versus pawn. With the bishop pawn, it's draw, because king will hide in the corner and go for some stalemate tricks, for example. We're gonna get the queen closer somehow. Usual stuff to drive the king in front of the pawn. But of course, after this move, black doesn't go in front of the pawn. They can use the stalemate trick like this. And white has no time to bring up the king. So this is now theoretical draw. Just wanted to show you this. So the correct answer is we need to sacrifice for another pawn. Knight d4. Sacking here. And we're doing the same skewer trick. This time we're gonna skewer where? If they promote, we're gonna skewer from this side and win the queen. And if they don't promote, then this is totally different. Now this is winning, for example, some moves. And we use this procedure to drive the king in front of the pawn, and that way, it's a slow process, but we eventually gonna bring the king as close as possible to d2 and win it. So interesting example. Okay, how about this one? Some pieces on the board. How can the raise happen here? White to play. Pause the video if you need. Think about it. And the right move is we can simplify to a pawn race. sack the rook, sack the exchange, yeah? Then win back the exchange, and suddenly the race starts. And this is a famous pattern to know when we are queening, both sides are queening on the same long diagonal. Whoever moves first usually wins, because we're gonna queen first, and that way we prevent queening of opponent, yeah, because our queen already controls that square. So very nice example, yeah, illustrating this pattern, queening, yeah, on opposite sides on the long diagonal. Okay, this was actually from a game. So we are looking from the black side now, yeah, black is going this way. And this is kind of tragic comedy, Mohr versus Conquest, 1989. What would you play with black, yeah? How to win this race? Looks like white is also gonna queen, and if we queen and white queens, usually queen and knight versus queen is a draw. So how can we maybe not let that happen? How to play? Okay, in the game black just went king c1, but the position becomes a draw because this happens, yeah, and it's a theoretical draw. So better move is surprising knight d5. We use again this idea of a skewer we've seen already in previous examples. Yeah, if they now take, well, first let's see, yeah, maybe they push the pawn. Knight e7, knight g8, and we gain a crucial tempo, yeah. They need to take the knight and then move the king out of the way. So this leads to a queen versus knight pawn endgame, and we know this is winning, yeah. There is no stalemate tricks with this one. So instead, yeah, the critical line is taking the knight, otherwise we are stopping the pawn. But we already seen this idea, yeah, skewer, and we win. So black could have won with this knight d5, amazing move. Okay, next example. This is for white to play, and from a famous very old study, 1841, Walker. I found also from some sources that this is Kozio's study for some reason. So how should white play? This is pure race now situation. Both sides pawns will be racing. So what to play here? Of course we play b4. First move is clear. If you thought about coming back to this square, this doesn't work actually. f5, a4, yeah, maybe promoting that pawn. But problem is black king starts supporting that pawn, and even here we can mess up big time. If we play king e1, this would even lose the game for white. Why? Because black is also racing, and suddenly we are getting checkmated like this. Yeah, so king e1 even loses the game. Can mess up big time. And okay, if a5, then black king supports the pawn, and we draw, yeah, both sides queen at the same time, at the same turn. So king b4 doesn't work, yeah, getting back into the square. b4 has to be played. So what's the idea? Why? Because it seems like we are queening the same, yeah, the same. So we queen, opponent queens. Now what? Yeah, why we played this way? What do we play now? Exchange the queens, and we initiate basically a second race. Queen has to be exchanged, and second race starts. So this was a kind of fancy study that way. And now we know this idea. We are promoting on diagonal, yeah, opposite on the long diagonal, and we promote first, so we easily win. Just a final kind of practical move here. In such cases, just block with the queen, that pawn, and you can easily win after that. All right, I hope you enjoyed this one. Let's go to the next one. And here we have from the game Fischer-Letelier, 1959, so Fischer was kind of young, improving player, strong player at that time even. But here he was playing white, and we are looking now from the black side. So black is in some trouble, yeah, because how is he stopping the g-pawn? He's not really stopping, so this is a race situation. So how to find the only defense here for black? Well, the natural move would be c4, yeah, but c4 doesn't quite work. Why? Because white takes. We have to take with the pawn, otherwise if we take with the king, white queens with check. Yeah? Another pattern in race situations to keep in mind. Look out for queening with checks. And here white just wins. So bc has to be played, but now g5, c3, and again this situation can happen. This time black managed to queen, but the problem is we're gonna lose the queen. Yeah, this is another pattern to keep in mind while racing and promoting at the same turn. Whoever moves first sometimes can check down the queen. So for example, king d6 would lose and we lose the queen. Yeah, this way, typical, very typical way. And if we go to d4, we lose it another way. Yeah, surprisingly, again, king e3 doesn't work because of the skewer, and king c3 loses to queen exchange, and white is faster, even shouldering our king and going for this pawn and winning this way. Yeah, so c4 looks like a very natural move. Many players would play this automatically, but it loses. So in the game, black actually managed to find the best move, king d4. King d4, what a surprising move. The idea is, we'll see soon, yeah? g5, so race begins. Takes. And now what? Now if you take back, this is basically the same as we've seen, yeah? And after queen d8, we lose again to the same line. So, but black's idea was not taking, but playing b4. And they are queening with check, you see? Very sneaky idea, queening with check. So, g6 was the line, but in the actual game, Fischer even blundered. So c5 he played, but he had to resign even after this. I don't know what happened here, but black just queen with check, and white lost the game very fast. Yeah, without the queen, this is game over. After queen d6, white had to resign. So this is what happened in the actual game. But of course, white should play g6, not c5, and the game would end in a draw. So b2, g8 queen, and b1 queen with check, and most likely this will end in a draw. Yeah? So amazing example from a real game. Yeah, very nice race. Yeah, so black initiated this idea to push b4, yeah, like a breakthrough, but they spotted that they are queening with check. A very good pattern to keep in mind when in pawn races. Okay, next example. Here we have Dvizov, yeah, 1965 study. How should white play for a win here? Yeah, looks like our pawns are further advanced, or not really further. Yeah, it looks like equal actually. Yeah, according to black, also crossed the middle of the board. We did the same, but we have a king close by, so maybe that will help us to win the game. So what should white do? What do you think? King f6 is only good enough for a draw. Let's see why. g6, b3, h6, b2, h7, and black is saved from a checkmate by queening on b1 and covering this diagonal. Yeah, this diagonal is covered, so there is no checkmate on g6. That's how black makes a draw. So yeah, surprising move. King f6 doesn't win because of that, but king g6 needs to be played. Yeah, very strange idea, but why we go in front of the pawn? So let's see some lines. b3, let's see. Yeah, if black immediately goes for it, king f7, that's the idea. And now we'll see the big difference. Yeah, what's the difference with king f6? Yeah, black even queens first, but we go all in with checks. And now what? Now we have queen g6 because our pawn supports it. Yeah, forcing queen exchange and second-rate stars. very funny example. Yeah, two pawns got promoted, then exchanged queens and second-rate stars, and now we win because queen is not on that diagonal anymore and queen g6 mate. Fascinating. Yeah, fascinating difference.
How do you like that checkmate?
So another line would be king g8. But now what? Yeah, how would you win now? Yeah, they're stopping our king f7 now idea. How to win now? h6. We just push those pawns, and we're going for different win this time. We're going for mate, even letting the black queen, but this is mate. Yeah, this is also known pattern you can sometimes use, yeah, with this mate idea, especially if you have the connected passers. Okay, I hope you enjoyed this study. Let's see the next one. How to win here for white. Yeah, this is also looking like a race. Yeah, do you see the idea? It's a bit tricky. Yeah, many moves to see ahead. So if you need, pause the video if you want a challenge to solve this. Oh, of course, the first move has to be b4. Yeah, push the prospective passer. Yeah, and ab. But now what? If you thought about ab4, that is only just good enough for a draw. Both sides gonna queen, yeah, at the same turn. So, but a4 is the right idea. Yeah, we want to queen on the long diagonal on a8. But black throws in this b3 check. Now what? Should we take this pawn? No. If we take it, it's gonna be a theoretical draw. Queen against the rook pawn, which we know is a draw. Yeah, let me just show you how it happens. Yeah, if yeah, let's say, yeah, we with the staircase bring the queen closer and try to force the king to the corner. We force it in front of the pawn, but now again we don't have time to move the king because it's a stalemate situation. So black will white again needs to move the queen, and we don't have any time to move the king closer. So that's how black is drawing this. So after b3, correct move is king b1. Very nice. Leaving this pawn on the board, so black will have kind of tempo move. Yeah, they will not be in stalemate. Yeah, this is very nice once you understand it. And this raise happens again, but now b pawn is remaining on the board, which is making huge difference. White wins. How does white win? We do the same. Yeah, staircase checks closer to the king, and the big difference is now this is not a stalemate. Black has another pawn, so king queen f2, and we checkmate. All right, hope you enjoyed this one. Let's move on. And a similar example, kind of similar, but here tragicomedy happened from the game Gavrikov-Kharitonov, 1984. How would you play with white? Yeah, white to play. Certainly gonna be a race situation here. All right, I'm gonna show you what happened in the game. In the game, mistake happened. King a5 was played, but this was only good enough for a draw. Yeah, pawn races, but both sides queen at the same turn, and this queen endgame is drawish, and the game ended in a draw. So the right first move is king c5. King c5. Why? What's the big deal? Maybe you can already see the idea. b4, king g4. Well, it's our old friend, the long diagonal again. a5. And we queen first, which means black is not in time to queen. We already control h1. So that's how white could have won, yeah? Strong grandmaster missed this idea. Okay, next one. Here we have a situation from the game Quinteros Andersson, Ulf Andersson, 1981. In this 10th pawn endgame, black just played b4, and now white must decide, yeah, what to do, because well, looks like a dangerous situation for both sides. Yeah, anyone can lose here. So what should white do? How not to lose this game? So correct move is king h6. Yeah, why this move? We want to go e7 and then force our way in with the king g7. So let's say black advances the pawns, the majority here. e7, we already went to queen, they have to take. King g7, c3, takes, f6, f7, and we both queen, and draw is achieved. So that was the correct way, king h6. But yeah, and what happened in the game? White made a mistake. They took the pawn, and now they played king h6. But what's the difference? What's the big difference? Yeah, just capture the pawn. Seems like no big deal. Okay, a3, e7, they used the same idea. And king g7 now was played. Well, unfortunately, if we took the pawn just queens with a check. Yeah, so that was the big mistake. So king e7, king g7, and ab2, f6. Okay, white chose another line. Yeah, looks like they are promoting at the same time, but probably in the game white thought they're making a draw here. Yeah, was pinning all their hopes on defending this queen endgame. But actually you can think with black now. Yeah, black can use a typical technique in such a situation, yeah, when pawns racing and queening at the same turn, and it's first to move with the queen. They could use the method to exchange the queens, because they have another pawn already. Yeah, passer pawn. So if they manage to exchange queens, they win. So how to exchange queens with black here? What to do? Well, we start checking on these lines, yeah, on these files. And what will happen if king h7, we are slowly getting closer with the queen. And finally, after this move, we are exchanging queens. Yeah, white cannot avoid it. If they go king h6, we are, after this, yeah, we are exchanging queens finally, because white is forced to move either here, so this will happen, or he is forced to go up, yeah, like this. So if it goes here, this is the exchange, and if it goes on h5, this is the exchange. So yeah, black can achieve the exchange, surprisingly. So game finished like this. White went instead king h6, but after queen e3 they had to resign, because next move will be on e7 or e8 with the black queen, and we are exchanging queens.
Tactics howling.
So yeah, white miscalculated in this game, and the critical mistake was taking this pawn. Yeah, so they had to draw with this, yeah, just keeping those pawns and just going for race immediately, not taking anything. Yeah, finally, yeah, and queening. Then, because we're queening first, yeah? That's the crucial tempo saved. Okay, yeah, very interesting example, this one. Alright, let's move on to the next example. So here is the game Larsen-Uhlmann, yeah? True to Legends 1971. White to play. After some careful calculation, Larsen decided to do what? He decided to enter the pawn endgame by trading, yeah, the minor pieces and going for king f4, king d5, and he's seen what? Now careful, yeah, if king f5, this would lead to a draw actually, yeah, this race would lead to a draw, so he pushed first b5. And in this example, we'll learn another pattern actually, very important in pawn races, this pattern to know. a6. King has to step back in the square, of course. Now, king e4 was played. Be very careful, yeah. a7 would even lose the game. Why? f4 and king b6 enters the square of the pawn, which actually wins for black, surprisingly, yeah. So very easy to mess, yeah. Such precision is needed in these pawn endgames. So king e4, b4 was played. Well, if king b6, then other pawn advances, and let's see, gonna probably transpose to the same thing. f4. Here black actually resigns, but of course we need to see why. Let's see the possible conclusion. So b3, now what? Of course we have to save, yeah, stop that pawn. We get back into the square. b2, king c2. Of course, black, being a strong player, saw that, yeah, that he loses, so that's why he resigned. But this is a very, very important pattern to remember in the pawn races. We queen with check, and that way we drag the king to the back rank, yeah, to the back rank when the other pawn queens also, yeah. So when we have these separate pawns racing, we can do this trick, yeah, queen with check, drag the king to the 8th row, and then queen another pawn with check, and that way we already gain tempos and we stop the rest of the black pawns. So yeah, very important idea to learn from this example. Let's go to the next one. Here is another pattern to know, and we'll see this happening in some further examples as well. Here was the game from amateurs. I don't know exactly who played this one. This is just the position I found from one of the books. And here both players kind of made mistakes. White played f4. And actually black could have made a draw even with the king c6 move. Yeah, I'm getting back into the kind of square. King e5, king d7, yeah, they get back and it's a draw. But black made a mistake, king c5, and finally white capitalized on it, king e5. And he's queening with check. We already seen, yeah, this pattern. Queens with check, and black resigned in the real game. So, but at the beginning of the game, white could have played king d5. This is kind of like obstructing the king getting back. And we'll see why white does this. King a4, yeah, they're trying to step out with the king and just promote the pawn. So why did white do this strange move, yeah? King d5, we'll soon see. b4 and king c4, what a strange move, yeah? f6 would not win, actually. Yeah, this is the line, but black is in time to make a draw here, yeah, even getting back like this, for example. So why king c4? What's the idea? Yeah, we haven't seen such a pattern yet, but b3, and white is wasting another move with the king moving. But is he stopping the pawn? No, he's not stopping the pawn. but he's forcing the black king to go into the square where we will be queening. That's the big pattern to remember. Yeah, we're forcing him to go to that diagonal, and this is the big difference. Even black queens first, but it doesn't matter, we win, because black king is kind of stuck at the edge. If king a2, this is mate. If king a4, I'm pretty sure you see, yeah, how we win. We skewer the king and queen and we win. So very important pattern to know. We can press the king at the edge this way and force him to go into the square where we will be queening with check, like that. So big takeaway from this game. Let's see the next one. And actually here I think this was from the real game, Ljubojevic-Browne, yeah, Two Legends, 1972. Tragic comedy happened. In the game, black just played f5 and agreed the draw after king b4, because white is getting back into the square. So, but using knowledge gained from the previous example, we can win here with black. How? We can play king d5. Yeah, a very surprising move, but the idea is what? If b4, we just use the same idea we learned, yeah. Very surprising. We played king d5 and back, yeah, but we are queening with check again, and that way we are winning the queen. So very, very important knowledge, yeah, could have been used in this game. King d5, yeah, just kind of obstructing the king. Actually, king d5 is played because if king b4 trying to get back, we do what? We obstruct the king this way, and we get the same line again. Yeah, we get back, and force the king to a6 again. f3, and it's the same thing. We win again the queen. A very important pattern from these two examples. And now it's black to play. This was a famous game from Marsalek-Smyslov, yeah? Smyslov, Legend of Endgames, 1961. Black has kind of an extra tempo, if we count, yeah, in the race. But how to use it? Which pawn to take? h4 or f4? Well, if you take h4, then king a4, and white will play b4 next and make a draw, most likely. Queens at the same turn. So black went king f4. Why? To bring the king closer, actually. King a4, g5, of course. The race starts. And pawn will queen on g1. And white even resigned in the game. Of course, we have to see why. b4, g4, b5. Now what? Yeah, that's why black took on f4 instead of h4. They can bring their king back. And I'm pretty sure you already kind of know what's gonna happen. Yeah, we already seen this pattern. White is marching with his king, but we know where we're gonna lure the white king. Yeah, straight into a check. King c7, king a7, g1, queen, check. Yeah, check to the king, and this wins. So that's how. Yeah, that's why king f4 was the right idea, to bring the king closer and basically lure the white king in the race into a check. Yeah, with queening it straight into a check.
Winds howling.
All right. Next example was from a modern game, Shirov-Morozevich, 2012. Black to play in this game and make a draw. Yeah, make a draw. Looks like really tough situation, critical situation. Black needs to evaluate how to initiate this race. So in the game, I'm gonna show you what happened. Let's see from the white side, yeah, what happened in the game. Actually, white won. King d5 was played, which is a mistake. because black kind of wastes time with this king moving around, while black gained couple tempos, yeah, moving the pawns. King e5, king g4, a5 was played, but well, maybe black calculated this, I think. But if king d6, we're gonna win with another pattern. Yeah, we push the pawn as far as possible, and we push another pawn, and you've seen this pattern before. We queen with tempos. Yeah, check, queening. We lower the king and check again. Yeah, and we stop the pawn. Now we have a queen. So this is familiar pattern already. But after ba, if king d6 is not played, if b4 is played, I think in the game happened this way. Both sides queened, so maybe black was actually banking on this to make a draw. But white eventually won with this move. King h5, going for this h5, h7 pawn. Eventually, yeah, if queen g6, I don't know, maybe just get back, yeah, and trying to exchange queens and stuff like that. There are no more checks, and white eventually won this game. But this was kind of mistake, yeah, king d5. So how should black actually play it? Yeah, let's flip the board back. Black should play king b6, trying to support a5. And now white has to find king e3 move. If they go g5, then a5, and we basically queen on the same turn. So king e3 has to be played, bringing the king closer to try to stop the pawns. Still a5, capture, capture, g5. If king d3, black is making a draw this way. Looks like white is just blocking this pawn, yeah? But black is in time actually to get back this way, and king catches the pawns. Yeah, for example, h5, king e6. Yeah, he's in square easily. Yeah, h6 would even lose the game, so white has to do this and draw. So king a5, g5, for example, and now super precise move needed. Both b4 loses because the white king is stepping in front, and since already white played g5, he's faster. Black is in no time now to stop the pawns. And king b6 also loses, yeah, trying to get back to a typical breakthrough idea, h6, and we are not in square. So king a4 only move. And finally, yeah, some variations. If king d2, we're gonna do this pendulum, yeah, it's called pendulum, I think. We're always threatening to push with check to gain a tempo, and white has to repeat the moves basically. After king a3, they have to go back, we go back, and the position repeats. So, and if instead of king d2 h4, then both pawns gonna promote, yeah, at the same time. And black king is not pressed, yeah, by the white king at the edge of the board, so there are no tricks. Yeah, we even queen first, yeah, so no more tricks. So that's how the game could have ended in a draw. So very nice situations, yeah, in the pawn races, but very precise play. Very hard to see this that it works, yeah. Surprisingly, king b6 just to push a5. Yeah, and that's why, yeah, black went king d5, logical, like from a human standpoint move, but it wasn't enough to hold the game. Okay, next example is this. Here it was black was playing famous Keres, a white Golumbek, 1939. And it's a tragic comedy. Why? Black played bishop b2, typical move to promote. We've seen these kind of patterns where piece versus pawns. Yeah, we sack some piece to promote the pawn, and opponent resigned. So actually, black could have made a better move than bishop b2. Even easier was bishop c3, kind of stopping the king approaching. and using that the pawn can promote. Yeah, this is almost a Zugzwang. After bishop c3, it's a Zugzwang, I think. Bishop e1, yeah, and winning h4 pawn, or the same idea, bishop e5 first move, and then capturing all these pawns that would have won. But bishop b2 looks like a winning move, but it actually, if white sees all the right moves, it's a draw. So let's see how. King d2 could be played, yeah. So that's what was calculated probably by white, and maybe he evaluated that this position is just lost. But question to you now, how can white save the game? How can white make a draw from this position? Yeah, looks hopeless. Looks totally hopeless. Okay, if you go king b3 after the a5 pawn, then you actually, yeah, lose. Why? Because we've seen this pattern. Black is queening first on the long diagonal, yeah, and we lose. Queen and 8 is no longer there. But white should go not for the a5 pawn. He should go for the g6 pawn. Yeah, very, very strange. And after this, actually, white makes a draw. Yeah, it's a race again, and we queen on the same turn. Black will queen, we will queen, and it's gonna be queen endgame, which will likely be draw. Yeah? So fascinating example where white just resigned, yeah, in the drawish position. So happens a lot. So okay, next example. Another hard, yeah, they're getting harder. Another hard example. Scene is set for a pawn race. Yeah, black will be going for this one and trying to promote the g-pawn, while we are trying to promote pawn majority on the queen side. So, but the question is, big question, yeah, for white now, where to put his king? Should we put it on b3? Maybe d2? What do you think? Yeah, pause the video if you want a big challenge. Try to calculate this one out. It's a tough one. And it was from the game Mas-Valdes 2006. Yeah, from the actual game. And white won the game. So, yeah, white calculated this one out. So, king b3 would be only a draw. Why? c4, yeah, of course we pushed the pawns. We didn't went for king b3, yeah, just to take the pawn. We went for clearing the c pawn and pushing, yeah, because it's a race. But we are queening on the same turn, so it's a draw, most likely, yeah. Queen endgame will be a draw here. So the right move is king d2. Why? We are heading towards the black king, kind of to pressure him on the side, and using the method that when we will queen, we might exchange queens, actually, yeah. So that's the big idea of white. b5, and we'll see soon what's the big difference, yeah, when the king is closer to the black king. And now what black has to make a big decision where to step with his king, yeah. If he steps on the dark square like that, we're gonna promote with check, and that's winning. We know this, yeah. If he gonna step on the h file, he's gonna get skewered, and we're gonna exchange the queens. We've seen this idea as well before. Yeah, and pawn endgame is winning because we're gonna collect a3, and we're gonna just to illustrate, we're gonna just shoulder the black king just in time like this. Yeah, and going all the way to b7. So king h3 also loses. King f3 fails to this move, actually, and we block with the king. So the game king f2 was played, but it steps also into the skewer. How? Let's see. Yeah, we promote, they promote, but what now? Where is the skewer? Skewer is here. King g2, queens got exchanged, and white wins like we've seen in other line. Yeah, we just shoulder the king. We have to do it, yeah, because of the rook pawn. But we win. Yeah, I hope you enjoyed this complicated example. Let's move on.
Not bad.
And another complex. Yeah, they're getting hard at the end. This was from the game Ftacnik-Bluvshtein 2010. With his active king, white is obviously better, but how to make progress? So, what to do? After a long calculation, Ftacnik concluded that the winning on a single flank is impossible, yeah, on the king side. And he decided to go for a pawn race. So, what to do? King c5. And he's trying to collect the queenside pawns, and pawn race is getting started here. So g5 was played in the actual game. Simpler was just taking, and we will see soon. Very nice idea. We already know this pattern. King c4 is the right move. a4 would only make a draw because black will also promote the pawn. So king c4. Why? We are moving the king in the square, and you already seen this idea. We are alluring the black king into a check, like that, and white wins because we're queening with check. But I'm pretty sure in the game white also saw this idea, but just in a bit different variation. g5 is also winning. King f5. Yeah, he took now the pawn. King takes, king b6, yeah, kind of similar thing happening. But now h6 in order to delay black's race. And yeah, probably white seen this move, yeah, from afar. This was their idea. King a6 also wins. Yeah, it's the same line basically we've just seen. Yeah, king c4, and again we're getting back with the king, forcing the black king, yeah, opponent king, into a check, into a queening check. But after h6, g6 was played. So basically this is the same idea, but black had one final kind of defense which he could have used, and white would need then to prove very big like queen checking skill after this. So I wanted to show you this variation where both sides will queen. But now white has to demonstrate how to actually exchange queens. So queen f4. If king h5, then queen e5, king h6, check, queen f7, check. And finally we exchange queens. Yeah, very long line, but white has to find it. And after queen f4, if king h3, then again we black cannot go to the g file, yeah, because we're gonna exchange queens there on the g file, so he has to stay on the h file. But this is the way we finally exchange, and yeah, no matter where white will go with the king, we're exchanging the queens. So for example, yeah, well, next move will probably be queen h5 and then coming back, yeah, to the g line that way. So black had this opportunity, yeah, to make white's winning chances harder, but they played in the game king h5, but that allowed our typical trick we already know, yeah. This was happening in the game. King e3 was possible, yeah. White didn't even play this idea, but for me it's kind of easier to understand. White calculated that they are exchanging queens anyway, so king h3 we already exchanged like this, and king h5, how do we exchange? Queen e5 check, and black resigned because why? After king h6 we're trading this way, and we're winning another race. Yeah, we still have a pawn. And if king h4, we are trading how? We're trading this way. And also winning, yeah. Another race will be started, but we're much faster there. So very, very complex game, yeah. And white decided to, this was a critical choice to go for this pawn race and to see that you're promoting first, yeah, and exchanging queens, or luring the king into promotion check. Fascinating game. And another interesting game I found was Vaganian-Lautier 1990. Black to play in this one. Well, I'll just show you the first move. So relying on an extra pawn, yeah, black has an extra pawn, so black wants to go to a pawn endgame and kind of anticipate a pawn race. White played very good move, best try, d4. If queen a5, what to do here? Yeah, maybe you can see a good move for black. Queen a1 is very strong, using all sorts of pins here, and this will win for black. And if king d2, black can trade everything and win the pawn endgame like this. King e3, and he's much faster with f4. He's gonna win, yeah. And if d4, I can see that we're queening with check, yeah, like this. Yeah, so queening with check, super important pattern in these races. So okay, d4, back to the game. Queen takes d4, forcing exchanges. King b2, and now what? Now we trade, yeah. If d3, this is not so clear because white can set up some kind of blockade. For example, yeah, if we go to some endgame, they can put the knight on e3, or in this variation also put a knight on e3. I have chances to survive this one, so better to play straight into the pawn endgame, and we have a race. So if you want a challenge, yeah, you can pause the video here with black. Try to calculate how do we actually win. So the game continued. King c2. We're going, of course, for the f4 pawn. They're taking this one, we're taking this one. King d5, and critical moment has arisen. Where to put the king, yeah, to step out with the king. Usually it's a big decision, because keep in mind we're going to be influencing, yeah, also the white king for the queen exchange possibilities when we both queen. So king g4 would be a mistake. White is even, yeah, queening is check, and it's a drawish queen endgame. King g3 also would be a mistake. King is too far. Same queening. And queen f6 doesn't help because king d5 steps out of the way, and we cannot exchange queens in a good way. So I'm pretty sure you've seen king e3 is a good idea. Why? Black, of course, saw this all during the game. Queening, and the final move, final detail. What's the move? If you haven't seen, you can find it here. Exchange of queens is inevitable. White resigned in this position. Why? If he goes to the c file, we can easily exchange, yeah, the queens like this. And if he goes to the d5 square, how we're trading, we're forcing him to the c file like this. And still we have one pawn, so we're winning the game. All right. And finally, yeah, this was a long lesson, but I've chosen all the typical patterns in the pawn races, so you might learn from it. The final example is this one for white. So this was from the study. Yeah, I'll reveal in the answer next lesson. But it's clearly a pawn race, yeah. We are racing, black is racing with pawns. So this is a bit of a tough one maybe, but you can use one pattern we learned already, yeah, from this big lesson. So try to find how white wins in this position. And thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next lessons. Bye bye.